right, what's up everyone? We'll go ahead and get started here in just a moment. It looks like they're paving all of Park Avenue. Look at this. I mean, which is good news, but look at all the traffic it's causing. It looks like we're going to get a brand new paved Park Avenue here. It's about 9 o'clock at night, and traffic is pretty backed up here on Park, going all the way down to Grand Central Station. Anyway, we'll get started in a minute. Thanks for joining. All right, everyone, I guess we'll go ahead and just start off the stream with our nightly visual and audio check. So if you guys can hear us and if we're streaming in 1080p, just go ahead and give a thumbs up in the chat. And assuming everything's good with the technical side of the house, we'll get started. A lot to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about Tesla, as well as the overall trend of self-driving. And as always, this is 432 Park Avenue. Beautiful night in New York City. All right, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Walks in Wall Street. Today is October 2nd. It is a Wednesday of 2024, and the time is roughly 9:07 p.m. Eastern. We're reporting live from, I guess you could call it Midtown Manhattan, right outside 432 Park Avenue, which is one of my favorite buildings in the city. Super unique looking. Quite nice. And it is the second full business day of Q4. So welcome to the last and final quarter of the year. Hopefully it's off to a great start for everybody. Just some quick review here, because we do have some economic data to cover, but also kind of refresh everybody. We have the ISM Institute for Supply Management, PMI numbers, that have come out yesterday. So just as a quick reminder, on the first business day of every single month, you have the Institute for Supply Management will post the PMI manufacturing numbers for the month prior. If you'd like to have a look at that data, if you type !PMI in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to the Institute for Supply Management's website. You could look at the September PMI numbers. Now, in addition to that, that is only one small fraction of the economy. If you think about it, about 20% of US GDP is manufacturing, and the remainder is services, right? Because we live in a service-based economy here. But it's very, very important to kind of understand and track the health of the manufacturing side of the house in the US economy. because there's high correlation between US manufacturing growth as well as GDP growth. So on Thursday, which is tomorrow, I believe we are getting the ISM PMI services number out. So we will have both the manufacturing data, which we got yesterday, the first business day of the month, and then a few days later we have the services PMI. So we'll be talking about that as well. Pretty flat day in the market, I'd say overall. We did discuss that the month of September was positive for the S&P 500, which is pretty rare. Usually the month of September is negative for stocks, but the S&P 500 was up 2% on the month. So very, very positive there, showing a quite resilient market, particularly during an election year, election cycle. We are going to be electing a new president in about a month here. Yesterday was the vice presidential debate. At the time, I had absolutely no idea that the VP presidential debate was going on. But soon to be, maybe, Vice President Tim Walz, and soon to be, maybe, Vice President J.D. Vance were both in New York City for the VP debate. That probably explains why Trump Tower looked completely packed, and some of the hotels on Central Park South looked to be packed as well for maybe some VP viewing parties and the like. Kind of shifting gears here, what we're going to talk about tonight. Tesla, we got some delivery and production numbers coming in for Q3 2024. They did miss expectations by a little bit, but still production numbers and total deliveries were upbeat. So total deliveries for Tesla for Q3 of 2024 came in at 462,890, and total production for Q3 2024 came in at 469,796. Now, if you look at analyst expectations, they were expecting deliveries of 463,000, missing the mark a little bit. And if you look at the latter deliveries, they were expecting 469,000. So, not too bad. Also, what we have looking forward to is a potential bull catalyst that's going to be coming up on October 10th is the unveiling of Tesla's, well, like full self-driving. It's going to be an interesting Robo taxi event on the 10th. So we'll see. Tesla stock, I believe, ended the quarter up 30%. Tesla stock has been getting hammered as of late, but over the last quarter, we've rebounded here a little bit, and I think it is safe to say that Tesla might have bottomed in April of 2024. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and say hello to everyone in the chat, and we'll get this stream started as we walk down 5th Avenue on East 55th and 5th. New England Crypto, what's going on? Always a pleasure to see you. I see Lance is here, Jimmy B, Alan, cheers to you. Peter, Gary Carpenter, I see Matt, the one and only Troy Atman, always a pleasure. Hope you're doing well. This is Tom. I want to go to the Robo Taxi event so bad at Warner Brothers Studio. It's going to be like Steve Jobs introducing the iPhone. I have very, very high hopes, to Troy Atman's point, and very, very high expectations for the Robo Taxi / self-driving. I think there's going to be a lot of announcements. There's also been a lot of speculation that might be fake news. On X this morning, I was reading that the chief marketing officer at McDonald's followed Elon Musk. Elon Musk followed him back. And then McDonald's made some kind of cryptic tweet or post on X today with the McDonald's bag that reads 1010. So who knows? Maybe we'll have like a robo-taxi partnership with McDonald's. I don't know. I think that may be a little bit of fake news. Don WV says, I usually watch your videos on my way to work in the mornings. Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting, and welcome to Midtown Manhattan. The mighty bull is here. John G's Tesla has bottomed and going through the trap floor to the Bay Auto Auction. I don't know what that means. New York City hiking discoveries as the Chinese stocks bounce back. Yeah, that's been another major key point, which, to your point, the People's Bank of China is not only doing quantitative easing, they're throwing everything they got at the market. So People's Bank of China and the Chinese government is all in, as you could describe, absolutely, totally all in with trying to essentially keep the economy on life support and bail out asset prices. So much so that the Chinese government is actively buying stocks. People's Bank of China is cutting interest rates, and they're even cutting interest rates on mortgages to kind of revitalize the economy. So that is very bullish for Chinese equities. The Shanghai index, the HSI, was up massive again last night. Hong Kong was up massive. And over the long term, I think that's going to be a net positive for global liquidity. Because not only is China easing, but now we're easing here in the United States, right? We've officially switched from QT, quantitative tightening, to quantitative easing here in the United States. So you have a global force of easing all at the same time, which is going to be very positive for global liquidity. And in my view, right, many of you disagree, but I think it's going to be very positive for asset prices. Lemonade, Patrice 2020. Thanks for joining us tonight. Madison 32 says, what is going on with Bank of America? It doesn't look good. Let's check it out. I mean, was there any news? I don't know. Let's see. What is going on with Bank of America? TradingView.com. BAC. What's going on? I don't see anything abnormal in the stock chart. Huh? Lark Bark, what's going on? Good to see you. Timothy says, hey from Sydney, Australia. Brad's Brain is here. Looks like we got the whole crew early. I want to show you guys some of the restaurants on this street. TPAC 5000 says Buffett sold billions of dollars worth of the stock. I usually don't put as much weighting on stock sales as I do stock buying. I mean, if you think about it like this, there's a million reasons for someone to sell a stock, but there's only one reason for an insider to buy the stock, right? If they think it's undervalued and if they think it's going up. A new addition to the S&P 500 along with Palantir. I know we have a few people in the audience that are big Palantir bulls, but Michael Dell's company, Dell, was recently added to the S&P 500, and I think he's filed to sell $1.1 billion worth of stock. Now, is that Michael Dell just having a liquidity event and ringing the register? I mean, his stock is at all-time record highs, just added to the S&P 500. Is it abnormal for him to take risk off the table? I don't think so. The guy's a multi-billionaire, and he's hitting the bid for $1.1 billion worth of stock. I don't know. Should we think too far into it? Is this the top of the market? You tell me. You tell me. Lori says, I don't eat out anymore. Every restaurant is cutting corners on service. Also in the US, the tipping culture is crazy. Not to really derail the conversation, but what really opened my eyes was when I traveled to Asia, when I was in Korea. What I hold on, let me turn off the Wi-Fi. I think we're back now. So the interesting thing is every time that I have a forced iOS update on my phone, even if you turn off the Wi-Fi, there's always a glitch where it automatically turns back on the Wi-Fi and it searches automatically. So I have to kind of turn it off twice. And it's usually every single time my phone gives me a forced iOS update. It's like for the next 3 weeks, I have to deal with the Wi-Fi being turned on and off. It's crazy. But I mean, to Lori's point about service and at the restaurants cutting corners, what I was going to say is when I went to South Korea, the service was so unbelievable, right? From the little mom and pop coffee shop to the best K barbecue place you've ever eaten at, and there's no tipping. They don't even allow you to give a tip. You know, I stayed at the Park Hyatt in Seoul, and I tried to give the valet guy, you know, a few dollars. They refused to take it. It's actually insulting if you try to tip these people. So it's an interesting disparity, right? It's an interesting divergence. So here in America, you have declining and eroding service at restaurants, but then you have to pay a premium for the declining and eroding service. But in some Asian countries, I don't know the tipping culture around the world, but in South Korea, there's no tipping and the service is unbelievable. I don't get it. You would think it'd be the other way. Anyway, Great says Meta stock is easy money. Reggie says Palantir, great company. Well, both of those companies added to the S&P 500, Palantir and Dell. Speaking of Dell, if you look all the way up here at the top of 157, that's Michael Dell's duplex. But that was a massive insider sell. That $1.1 billion worth of Dell stock he is selling. Peter says in China and Taiwan there is no tipping as well. I did not know that. Elias says, Tom, there's no tipping in Japan either. Anna says the same thing. Madison 32 says, Tom, Bank of America customers reporting having trouble with their bank accounts on Wednesday, but the bank said it was apparently a glitch and it's largely fixed. Yeah, I mean, it happens. There's always some conspiracy that comes out whenever like banks go through a glitch. You'll see all these posts on Twitter, Facebook about how it's, you know, the world's financial system is collapsing. I saw some crazy X post today. Says that the Federal Reserve is preparing for the US dollar to collapse. All this nonsense that you find all over the place. In any event, Lemonade says, I'm tired of tipping. What I find disturbing is that they set the system to request a tip before you pay. It's ridiculous. That, and you know what I've also noticed, particularly here in New York, but I think it's a little bit worse in Miami. The auto calculations for the tip used to start at like 15%, then go to 20%, and then end at 25%. Now the auto calculations start at 20%, it goes 20%, 25%, and 30%. Those are like the auto calculations, so they want you to, you know, select one of them. I mean, I have no problem tipping for good service, but I think we could all agree that the tipping culture has just gotten too out of control in the United States, at least in my view. Hey, what's up, Doc7? Good to see you. But kind of as we, you know, talk about the markets, maybe this will actually tie a little bit into the tipping conversation. Interestingly enough, do we think that AI, full self-driving, robo-taxis, and automation is going to fundamentally change the way we tip? Because if you think about it, and the reason why I bring it up, everyone, because today we just got Tesla delivery numbers and we also got Q3 production. It missed the mark a little bit, but I still think it's very positive. It was like a negligible miss. So Tesla total deliveries in Q3 of 2024 came in at 462,890 units, and total production for Tesla vehicles came in at 469,796. We're getting this data 1 week before the 10/10 event for Tesla, which is the Robo taxi event, which I believe is going to be huge. Now, keep in mind, this event for Tesla was pushed back not once but twice. So there's a ton of built-up momentum. There's a ton of built-up and welling up pressure here for Elon Musk and the Tesla team to deliver in a major way for this event, 10/10. Now, if you think about the major players in full self-driving, autonomous vehicles in the United States, I would probably say it's Google Waymo, right? Google has a significant investment and owns Waymo. I think they're probably number one for now. But I think Tesla is going to take over that market and really dominate. What happens when the Domino's pizza delivery is an autonomous vehicle, is a robo-taxi? What happens when all of our food delivery bike guys are replaced by robo-taxis? And not only the robo-taxis in the traditional sense. If anyone here has ever seen one of our live streams in Miami, Florida, they actually have miniature robots that ride around downtown Miami in Brickell that deliver the food directly to your door. They're like these little teeny little robot guys. So the question is, and I know it's a little bit of a trivial question, but do you think that's going to fundamentally change tipping culture in America? Full self-driving, autonomous vehicles, and AI? I mean, what are you going to tip the robot? I mean, does robots deserve a tip? I don't know. Do you tip the people who are controlling the robots? Professor Dario says, I remember those mini robots. Yeah, I mean, think about something like that here in New York City. Now, in this environment we're in with, the craziness with the crime, I don't think those things would last 2 seconds in a city like New York. But assuming that gets cleaned up, it's very possible you may have mini drone robots roaming all through New York City, delivering everyone's food. That's a possibility because it's a reality in Miami already. I just want to give you guys a shot of Central Park Tower. This is the most unique view of Central Park Tower, I think. Hey Richard, what's up? Lark says that is the biggest fear with AI on whether it's going to replace civilization. Tatted T says they have those robots on my daughter's college campus. It's interesting. Really, which campus, if you don't mind me asking? So the college students order DoorDash or order Uber Eats, and you're telling me that the food gets delivered by those virtual robots? Now, what do you guys think of this view? What we're looking at right now is 217 West 57th Street. This is the tallest building on New York City's Billionaires Row. It's called Central Park Tower. Let me just put my phone on Do Not Disturb. All right, cool. And this one is 157 West 57th Street. These were both done by the same developer, Xtel, Gary Burnett. Such an interesting shot. Really looks like something out of a Batman movie. Nordstrom building.
We just make COIs.
Brad's Brain says they have robots at LSU, according to my nephew. Now that's real and it's here. Yesterday we talked a lot about automation. If you missed the live stream last night, I think a lot of people did. Due to the the vice presidential debate between soon-to-be, maybe, Vice President Tim Walz, or soon-to-be Vice President, maybe, J.D. Vance. But the most of the conversation last night was based around the ports strike. Okay, the ports strike that is looming here in the United States, where the shoremen, right? And I don't really want to get into the politics of it all, but are demanding a massive, massive contract increase to their base salaries, their pay, their hourly rate, their health care, and one of their demands in the new contract is that there's no more automation. But if you think about what's going on in China, what's going on in Singapore, particularly in China with their massive, I think their largest port is in Shanghai. It is fully autonomous. Everything is done with robots, connected with 5G, all highly advanced Internet of Things. And there's people literally in rooms that are just monitoring the algorithms and the robots, right? Massive cost reduction, massive reduction in human capital. And I think the labor unions in the United States see the writing on the wall, and they want to prevent that, which I understand. But the technological change is inevitable. Now, the reason why I bring that up again tonight is because think about all the food delivery bicycle people in New York City. I mean, you see thousands of them cruising around the streets. What happens when one of those robot companies come to New York City? Right? What's going to happen to all these people, right? And a lot of people's jobs depend on delivering people's food, especially a lot of the migrants that have just come here. You know, they're all doing Uber Eats, DoorDash. That technology exists today in the United States to replace all those jobs. This could be a pretty interesting disruption event. And what's that going to do for corporate profits? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? You have some of the food delivery bicycle guys here now. Hardworking people. Yeah, Professor Dario says it would be a real issue with jobs. Marius says there are some robot food deliveries already here in Los Angeles, California. Troy Atman says, yeah, great. Soon the human robot controllers will be replaced as well by robots. Robots will write the code and develop new robots. Humans will be kicked out entirely, LOL. I mean, it sounds crazy, but you might be right. But again, I don't think it's going to be a dystopian hellscape. Kind of, shifting gears back to this Tesla event. If you think about a lot of the conversation that's been happening with, the heads of Waymo, the heads of Tesla, like Elon Musk, their vision, right? I think if we, kind of pivot the conversation from food delivery guys losing their jobs to let's talk about the health implications, right? Let's talk about all the lives it's going to save. The overwhelming majority of accidents on the road today that are preventable are due to human error and also are due to human negligence, including intoxication, driving under the influence, drunk driving. I mean, think about how many innocent lives are lost on the streets of the United States of America due to people driving under the influence of some sort of drug or driving drunk. With robo-taxis, that is going to be talked about at the 1010 event for Tesla, over time, the algorithms that run these robo-taxis are going to be so good and so precise with their precision, there's going to be no accidents. Drinking and driving is going to go to zero. I mean, I really don't think people understand that, right? I mean, if anyone is or knows someone who's lost, a friend, family member in a drinking and driving accident, I've had friends who've unfortunately lost their lives in those type of accidents. One of my old coworkers that I used to work with when I was in college died in a horrible drunk driving accident in Brooklyn, New York. Those with full self-driving and robo-taxis go to zero. Like totally zeroed out. I mean, what is the value on that? I mean, how do you even put a value on that? Right? I know we talk finance a lot. We try to determine the valuation of the TAM. Is it an expanding TAM? But I mean, I don't even think you can put a price on that. Quite literally. So what is the value? It's invaluable. And that's coming. There will come a time, particularly in big cities, because if you think about where the majority of the pilot programs that are happening right now for these, robo taxis, full self-driving, autonomous driving pilot programs, they're all happening in cities. San Francisco, I think Phoenix is a huge, huge city for Google's Waymo unit. I mean, this could be pretty huge. Let's do one walk up to Lincoln Center before they shut this fountain off for the year. Ah, that's right. Professor Darius is Tempe, Arizona as well. If I'm not mistaken, Tempe, Arizona is that the main campus of ASU? Is that right? Do we have anyone from Arizona here? I think that's the main ASU campus is in Tempe. Nikita Harris says, yes, Tempe is ASU. Got it. Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was watching this. It wasn't like a podcast. It was like a mini interview. Again, it was a clip I got from X with another interesting use case, right? When we're trying to evaluate, because I think the biggest question about robo-taxis, full self-driving, and a realistic date to when a customer could purchase a Tesla and have the full self-driving capability and have the robo-taxi capability without all these partnerships. Because right now, Uber has individual partnerships with some of these companies. I think Lyft, at a recent Goldman Sachs Investor Day, was talking about robo-taxis and full self-driving, and the CEO mentioned something really interesting. He said one of the biggest challenges that we're going to face with robo-taxis as it relates to our business, Lyft and Uber, is how to address the supply and demand issue with peak and off-peak hours. And I never really thought about it like that. So here's an example, right? When there's like a rainstorm out of nowhere in New York City, you see taxis and Ubers flood the streets, and everybody needs a taxi cab, right? Friday nights, Saturday nights, when everyone's going out, to the bars after work, hanging out with their friends. But what about like Tuesday at 11 a.m.? You don't really need that many Ubers and taxis on the road. And when you have humans controlling those vehicles, it's easy to keep supply and demand in balance. But what if it's just an unmanned, unmarked robo-taxi? What, are they just going to be cruising around ad nauseum? So if you think about maximizing profits, I forget the exact metric or the acronym he used, but it was maximizing the amount of dollars per hour during peak and off-peak hours, which is interesting. This is a pretty cool shot of New York City's Billionaires Row. We're going to quickly go up to Lincoln Center before they turn that fountain off, as always, but hey, Moon Magic, what's up? New York hiking discoveries is because the AI, many people start to quit their jobs and build their own businesses. Maybe that's a good thing. Oscar D says, Tom, what's going on, or what's going to be huge is AI, is AGI. This would be so close to, a sentient, being. I think that's like Neuralink, right? I think the end game, the final product, is humans becoming one with machine, and that's Neuralink. We briefly spoke about this yesterday. I'm sure all of you have seen the new, the Meta glasses that came out. And Mark Zuckerberg is, obviously, he's talking his book, he's making the product. But he's very, very bullish and very optimistic on glasses being the wearable of the future. If you watch the video he put out on Instagram, Mark Zuckerberg explained it like this. He said the way humans have interacted with compute, right, or how we do computing over the last 20 years has shifted dramatically, right? We started to spend the majority of our time computing on a desktop, right? Think like the Windows 95 desktop days before 3G, right? Because before 3G technology, you really couldn't access the internet on a handheld device, right? It just wasn't feasible. And then once we started to get 3G networks, 3G technology, then a lot of that computing power, a lot of that compute started to shift to a handheld device, like we have smartphones. Then with LTE, it really took off, right? 4G LTE, now 5G. And we don't really use our desktops as much. We do most of our tasks on our phones. Yes, we still utilize the desktop and the laptop, but most of like the daily tasks, like interacting with people, communication is done with a phone. And this is Zuckerberg's words, this isn't mine. He sees the next progression in the technology stack to be, you're gonna start to see the same thing that happened from the desktop to the mobile, go from the mobile to the glasses. I guess you could call that augmented reality, not virtual reality, but an augmentation of your reality to project virtual images, tasks, applications in your frame of reference, and you'll have some sort of AI assistant to navigate throughout your day. And you'll start to use your phone less and less and less, to the point where you just leave your phone at home and devices become obsolete. Where I think Zuckerberg, and again, I mean, this is Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, he shouldn't be taking any advice from me. Okay, totally two different levels of people. But what I'm seeing is, yeah, that's all well and good, but technology has advanced so much, so fast, this rapid acceleration, I think we're gonna lap the glasses. I think it's gonna be a direct jump from mobile to a chip is gonna be in our head, and we're gonna become a sentient being with the internet. Humans will become one with the internet, and that's already happening with Neuralink. We talked about this yesterday, but that's what I see. Radiance is replacing my phone for glasses, no thanks. I feel the same way, because not everyone wears glasses, right? What if you have 20/20 vision? You're just gonna throw on a pair of glasses just because that's the way you can communicate with your personal AI? I don't think so. I don't think people are gonna do that, honestly. Hey, what's up, Paul McNeely? Says I'm not becoming a Borg. Who knows? I mean, crazier things have happened. Hey, Vivian Francesca, what's going on? Welcome to the Upper West Side of Manhattan. This is West 63rd Street and Broadway. We're right outside of the Smith, and we're also overlooking Lincoln Center. Again, I wanted to take you guys up here one last time. Maybe we'll come back here, a few more times, but it's gonna start getting cold in New York, and they're gonna turn off that fountain in Lincoln Center. And that's one of my favorite things about the Upper West Side. So. Hey, Nikita Harris says, I saw those glasses where it will translate different languages into English when you are traveling abroad. And I thought it was so cool. I mean, yeah, the applications and the use cases is amazing. My favorite one is that clip of this girl who's blind, and she's using the Meta glasses to get around. And the point of the video was to show somebody without a disability, right? To show a person like me who's not blind, just how crazy it is throughout the day if you're a person that's blind. Cars just being absolutely inconsiderate, people trying to take advantage of you. It's pretty crazy. And the Meta glasses, kind of is talking to this girl, telling her to be aware of her surroundings. Oh, hey, you have a truck turning to your left. You're about to go into a street that is blocked off temporarily. You may want to take this detour. So it's almost like a second pair of eyes on a person who's unfortunately blind. And I think those implications are massive, right? But then to go back to my original point with saying technology is advancing so rapidly that technology could only exist for a short little frame of time and then we lap it, Neuralink could cure blindness. That is a possibility. It may sound like a pie in the sky idea, but that is a possibility with Neuralink. If you are blind or if you are paralyzed, it is quite possible that in 10 years, Neuralink will have the capability and the technology to cure your blindness. So maybe you won't even need the glasses. Hey, Tomahawk says, whatever happened to Smith and Walensky? I'm not too sure if there was ever one in Manhattan. I don't even really remember. Was there ever one in Manhattan? I know that there's one at South Point Park in the south of 5th neighborhood of Miami, which is an amazing, amazing place, by the way. For those of you who are not familiar with Miami, what I would suggest is go to the south of 5th neighborhood in South Beach, walk all the way to the end of South Point Park, right when you could see Fisher Island. I was about to say Shelter Island, Fisher Island, and you'll have the main Smith and Walensky right there. I think that's the best outdoor dining setup in America. Maybe a hot take, but check it out. The Smith and Walensky at South Point Park in the south of 5th neighborhood of South Beach, Miami. Hey, Ivan Hernandez is here. What's up? All right, everyone, we've officially made it to Lincoln Center. This is an amazing, amazing, amazing place. And check out that fountain there. TPAC 5000 says, question, how long can the country borrow $1 trillion every 100 days and keep the lights on? Honest answer is so long as the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. Hey, everything in Miami. So Smith and Walensky is 797 3rd Avenue. There you go. I never even knew it was here. What do you guys think? Someone says, can we please go to Juilliard? Yeah, we can go to Juilliard for sure. We'll see if the lawn is open back here. In any event, I think it's an interesting conversation, and there's a lot of skepticism. I know we kind of, over the past 2 days, we've been hammering on the fact of, robotics, AI, full self-driving, robo-taxis. But I think it's important because every decade, you really have these big fat pitches, as I like to call it. I think the last decade was dominated by enterprise software and SaaS. So if you, and not just really talking about the investment business, by the way, if you worked at a software company, or you worked at a telecom company, or you worked at a SaaS company over the last decade, you've done well. Like, it's just a guarantee. It's either you made a lot of money in your salary, or the company you were working for, the stock went up 600%. That happened for a lot of people. It happened for me. Thinking about the next decade, right, where could potentially be the next big leaps? I think it's going to be this robo-taxi thing. Obviously AI, but it kind of intertwines with robo-taxis. But you also kind of want to explore something that the vast majority of people are very wishy-washy on, right? So if you read a lot of these equity research reports from a lot of the big shops on the street, it's either people think that full self-driving and robo-taxis is getting way overblown, it's 40 years away, you're not going to be able to monetize it quite well. And then you read these other reports on the other end of the spectrum that they think that the vast majority of the fleet in the United States is going to be fully autonomous by 2030, right? So it's like, okay, well, which one is it? Is this a $1 billion opportunity, or is it an $800 billion opportunity globally, right? I mean, who knows? I tend to think it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. And I think we're going to live in a society where you can buy a Tesla, have your Tesla drive you to work, and while you're at work, let's go up on this grassy area. I'm actually quite intrigued by this. We always try to go up at least once a season. Anyway, and while you're at work, your Tesla will be able to be working for you, making you a little bit of extra income, right? And that's actually not an idea of mine. That's what Elon Musk said. He said it is possible that when you purchase your Tesla, when you're at work, your Tesla is going to be working as well, being utilized as a robo-taxi. And what is that going to do for gross margins at, say, an Uber or a Lyft? I mean, it's just a software company, right? Their biggest expense are the drivers. What happens when there's no drivers? What happens to profitability? What happens to free cash flow? And what happens to margins when we have full autonomous driving? This is Juilliard. This is the Irene Diamond Building, 155 West 65th Street. The Juilliard School. This is one of the best, I'd say, music schools in the world. I mean, would that be an appropriate description? I mean, super, super talented kids here. I think there's actually a class going on right now. Look at this. It's kind of cool to see. Anyway, if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these streams every single day starting at 8:45. This is a cool shot of Central Park Tower, 220 Central Park South, and Deutsche Bank Tower. But this is a really, really awesome green space. '76's auto insurance on robo-taxis will be costly. You think so? I would actually think it'd be the opposite, right? I mean, well, this is like really trippy because you're quite literally standing on the edge here. Look at that. Even though we're not that high up, yikes. But I don't know, let's talk about that. I mean, wouldn't that make insurance premiums go down? I mean, who here has kids? Does anyone here in the audience have children? Now, I remember, I didn't really drive that much, but you know, I remember my parents saying, if you get in an accident or you get a speeding ticket, no more car for you. And I really didn't understand why at the time. but the insurance would go through the roof, right? If you have a kid, a teenager, and he's getting in accidents, he or she, right? You're getting in accidents, getting speeding tickets. Do you think your insurer, like, is State Farm going to call you and say, hey, for your renewal this year, we're gonna lower your costs? No, they're gonna jack the prices up because they know your kid is gonna drive like an idiot. So when you think about full self-driving, if you have a robot doing the driving with all these high-tech sensors and the AI is so advanced where it essentially prevents any risk of an accident at all, wouldn't insurance premiums plummet through the floor? Wouldn't this be deflationary? Right? I mean, technology throughout history has been rather deflationary. It may not seem like it, but think about it like this for a moment as I try not to faceplant down the stairs at Lincoln Center. You now have a camcorder, right? Who here remembers back in the 90s, you would buy a tape recorder, like a big, record video, and it was this massive thing you would actually literally hold on your shoulder to record videos. Then if you wanted to listen to music, well, you bought a CD player. And then if you wanted to listen to more songs, guess what? You spent $10, $20, $30 buying hundreds of CDs. All of that now has been consolidated into one device that can do everything for pretty much nothing, right? Yeah, you spend $1,000 on the device, but all the different softwares, I mean, you could go on YouTube, listen to music for hours for free. You can have any answer you want to any question in the world at no cost. You just ask Siri, you say, hey Siri, who's the president of Zimbabwe? Or you just type it into a ChatGPT prompt, and you have every answer you could ever imagine in the palm of your hand for nothing. And it's free if you connect to public Wi-Fi. I think it's going to do the same thing for insurance. And technology over time drives costs way, way lower. This is a cool view. So from Lincoln Center, if you walk all the way to the back, this is by the Lincoln Center Theater entrance. You can come over this walking bridge, which will take you right to the Juilliard School. This is overlooking the Hudson River to the west side. This building that kind of looks like a cube right here is MLK, Martin Luther King Junior High School. And I believe this is the Walter Reed Theater, just off to the left. Hey Dana, what's up? Says, hey, my niece goes to Fordham right near there. I'll be there in November for a show. Oh, she is directing her school's performance, Spring Awakening. Wow. I could hardly wait. I love Manhattan. Very, very cool. Dana. Well, congrats on that. Yeah, Fordham is a very good school. I went to the school right next to Fordham, John Jay College, a little bit further over west, but our campuses are pretty much right next to each other. That's awesome. Film at Lincoln Center, New York Film Festival, September 27th through October 14th. Walter Reed Theater. Check out the views from here too. Now this is Steinway Tower. This is the skinniest residential apartment building in the entire world. The tallest one that you see is Central Park Tower, 217 West 57th Street. And the one with the gold top is 220 Central Park South. That's the best-selling building on Billionaires Row. That was developed by Vornado. Now, Vornado is also doing the Penn 2 project, which we've been talking about ad nauseum. That is a complete revitalization of Midtown, the Penn District. And these two buildings right here is the former Time Warner Center, which is now Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank, for those of you who are new here, was the last standing German bulge bracket investment bank on the physical street of Wall Street. It was 60 Wall. I actually used to work 2 buildings down from Deutsche back in the day. I was at 82 Wall Street. And now Deutsche Bank moved uptown here, and they've taken over the Time Warner Center, which is a much better location, by the way. Yeah, Know Your Crafts didn't realize the BlackRock building was right next to the vessel. That's another good observation. So BlackRock, they used to have their main headquarters right off of Park Avenue, right in Midtown East. Now there's been a massive shift to Class A properties. So BlackRock occupies 50 Hudson Yards now. It's an unbelievable office. It's fantastic. And you also see the same thing with Pfizer. So Pfizer, and I took you guys there last night. So if you missed the live stream last night, we went all the way over by the Chrysler building. Now the reason why we did that is because right there on 3rd Avenue was Pfizer's old corporate headquarters in Manhattan. Now the reason why that's relevant is because they have since vacated that property and they've moved to a new beautiful office at the Hudson Yards right next to BlackRock. Now the office building that they used to be in, that's next to the Chrysler building, is going to be the largest office to apartment conversion project in the city's history. Now prior to that, we talked about Harry Mackelow, who's a great developer here in Manhattan. He was responsible for 432 Park Avenue, which is in some stiff litigation with the CIM group. It's a story for another day. But he used to hold the record for the largest office to condo conversion with One Wall Street. And One Wall Street is right next to Trinity Church in Lower Manhattan, as well as the New York Stock Exchange. It has 580 units, a little bit over 580 units, which was the largest office to condo conversion in the city's history. And that is going to soon be dethroned by this Pfizer project. That's going to be the largest, not only in Manhattan, but in all of the United States. All right, let's head back further into Midtown. We'll go through Columbus Circle again. What's up, Bill? Good to see you. Oh, also, as a quick reminder, everyone, tomorrow is Thursday, which means we are going to be sending out our first investment newsletter of Q4. So welcome to the fourth quarter. Today is October 2nd. October 3rd, right at the closing bell, once the market closes, I'm going to be emailing everybody our Q4 report. Well, the first investment report of Q4. If you want to sign up for free, we publish all of our equity research on Substack. If you scan the QR code, punch in your email, you'll receive it right as the market closes. You could also look at our website. We have about 2 years, 24 months of research published for free. You can check it out. And tomorrow should be a little bit of a lengthy report because we're going to talk about the massive quantitative easing event going on in China. Big rally in Chinese equities. We're going to talk about the bond market, commercial paper over there in China. And we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive in Singapore. So Singaporean equities too. It should be a fun one. And maybe we'll do a little bit of what we could expect for Tesla's Robo taxi day on the 10th. So looks like something's just getting out. Look at this. Let me take the QR code down. NBA Live, this is Tom. OpenAI just secured a $6.6 billion funding round. Wow, the firm is now valued at $157 billion. Insane. It's crazy. You know, that reminds me of what Stan Druckenmiller said recently. For those of you who don't know, Stanley Druckenmiller is probably the greatest investor of our time, right? I don't really count Warren Buffett an investor of our time. I think it's a little bit before my time. Anyway, Stan Druckenmiller got his start on Wall Street by trading under George Soros. And what he is predicting about AI is there's going to be mini cycles, or there's going to be small bull markets within a larger bubble. And when you see things like that, you're going to have overfunding, overinvestment, and overspending in AI, which is going to happen. It happens in every cycle. Then you're going to have a bust. Then you'll probably, level out for 12 months, 24 months, a year or two. And then that's when you're going to have the real economic growth, the real earnings that are actually driven by AI. Because if you think about this market movement now, which we've been very, very bullish on, most of the revenue, number one, and most of the earnings power generation has not been driven by artificial intelligence. Now, what do I mean by that? It's been driven by the investment in the infrastructure to build out AI. Hence the massive semiconductor boom, right? We always kind of give this analogy. In the gold rush, right? If you think back to who got rich in the gold rush, not everyone who moved to California found gold, right? But the people who sold the shovels and the pickaxes, well, they got rich, right? So that's the guarantee. So do you want to be selling the infrastructure? Do you want to be selling the infrastructure to the entrepreneurs who build out AI? Or do you want to be invested in all these miniature AI companies that some will do good, some will fail, some will be unicorns, some will go to, $200 billion in valuation and then go to zero. I think that's kind of the space we're in now, is invest in the pickaxes and the shovels, because we don't know what is going to succeed or not. That's why I think semiconductors have been really outperforming and will continue to outperform. Now, although, NVIDIA is kind of like a hybrid character, right? If you talk about NVIDIA, yes, they sell the shovels, yes, they sell the pickaxes for AI, but they also sell the applications and the software that is essential for AI to run in and of itself. So maybe they're like a little bit of a hybrid character. Hey, sunshine after rain, what's up? Timothy Gray says AI will follow the same pattern as the e-commerce bubble of the 1990s. Only a fraction of the competitors will survive, and those who do will learn from those who didn't. That's pretty spot on. I think I definitely agree with that for sure. Let's try to navigate away from this Lincoln Center neighborhood now. Let's head over to Central Park West. This is looking down Broadway into Columbus Circle. Bill says, Tom, artificial intelligence will become commoditized. I don't understand all the money going into OpenAI except as a first mover. Mark Francis 076 is when I invested in Apple years ago. I bought the stock in the part suppliers for Apple itself. Max Millions is great stream. I feel like I'm walking there in the streets of New York City. Thank you, Max. Appreciate it. Hey, we have TD in the house. What's up, Teresa? Sunshine After Rain says, Tom, what do you think about this port workers strike, and can it affect the stock market? I have a little bit of a smug answer for this, but I also have a very long answer for this. And we kind of talked about it, and that's what's really spun this massive conversation over the last 2 nights regarding AI, robotics, and automation. Because these port workers, one of the main things in their contract, I should say one of the main demands, because they really, if you look at the union contract, there really is a list of demands. One of the stipulations is that there's no automation. So pay us more money, right? Give us a higher hourly wage. Give us more money to contribute to our retirement and our medical benefits. Oh, but you can't innovate and you can't invest in automation and robotics to drive costs down and to increase operational efficiencies at these ports. That's crazy, okay? Not to sound like a broken record, but if you look at China, if you look at Singapore, it is all high-tech, advanced, fully automated, with robots, with 5G technology, driving labor costs to the ground, increasing operational efficiencies, and essentially putting those jobs obsolete. Now, I don't want to sound like a crazy sociopath to say, yeah, let's make everyone lose their jobs. But if you look back throughout history, every single major technological advancement destroyed jobs, totally decimated and culled a lot of jobs. But at the same time, if you look on the back end, it also simultaneously created roughly 4 jobs for every 1 job it destroyed. Right? Think about all the jobs we have now in, software and tech. Salespeople selling this type of software, right? In the 1980s, how many salespeople were working selling software as a service or cloud computing? There was, the exact amount was 0 because it didn't exist, right? Think about all the people who are Salesforce administrators at these large companies, right? Who ran all the HRS software? Well, no one, because it didn't exist back in the 70s and 80s, right? But you would never think those jobs would exist because the technologies didn't exist. So what I have to say about, the people who say, look, you need to be fighting for the worker and, fighting for everyone to keep their jobs, it's, we need to progress society to stay competitive on a global scale, and it's going to create jobs. If you ask me what those jobs are, my answer is I have no idea what those jobs are because they don't exist. It's not real right now. But it will be real when the technology advances. So who knows? Yeah, that's true. I think Reggie says they turned down almost a 50% raise because what they really want is the stipulation of no automation, right? That's what they really want. Doc 7 says the strike will... Let's see what Doc 7 says. Every time I want to read a comment, it just... Hey, Clarence Jackson, what's up? Says you're in my hood. I will come down and say hello next time. For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm always in the area. I'm always in the neighborhood, so... Absolutely. But I think Doc 7 said something along the lines of the strike is only going to accelerate the port owners' eagerness to invest in automation, and I agree. Because I really do believe that the union head is doing a disservice in the negotiation tactics because he's negotiating with the gun to everyone's head, right? And he's essentially acting like a mob boss, like an Italian mob boss thug, right? And I could say that because I am Italian and I know some of these mobsters on Long Island, so it's not like you can't claim racism. I mean, I come from a family that, is from Massapequa, New York, so if you put a gun to everyone's head and negotiate like that, what's probably going to happen, if I could make a prediction, is the following. They'll get a contract with an absolutely ridiculous pay raise with no agreement in relation to the automation, and then you're going to see a massive amount of spending. I mean, it's just going to be cartoonishly crazy, the amount of spending these ports invest in automating everything to catch up to the main ports in Shanghai with everything connected by 5G, robotics. Singapore is doing the same thing. They're going to have a state-of-the-art port come on that's going to be totally run by robots. So that's what I think is probably going to happen. It's like don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? You could ask for higher pay and a reasonable, pay increase, but if you don't think these companies are going to double down and triple down on, hey Lloyd, good to see you. Nice to meet you. My name is Thomas.
Hey Thomas.
Hey, good to see you.
What are you filming?
Yeah, we actually do a show called Walks on Wall Street.
Oh, yeah?
So we walk around
far away.
Yeah, but we walk around the city, talk about the financial markets and the outlook on corporate earnings. So I just wanted to introduce myself.
Good
but
luck.
good to see you. Take care. For those of you who don't know, that's the former CEO of Goldman Sachs. I think he has a unit at 15 Central Park West. So it's funny we saw him tonight. Yeah, it's the former CEO of Goldman Sachs. I think I ran into him once before at a coffee shop, but yeah, he's a pretty nice guy.
They realize who I am. A lot of people will know who I am.
Yeah, I know.
That guy probably has stories for decades, right? Mr. Lloyd Blankenfein. Pretty cool. I forgot what we were talking about. The investment in automation. Yeah, I would say in conclusion, I would say they're definitely going to, double down, if not triple down, on automating these points or automating these ports even faster after these crazy negotiation tactics. So, yeah, Clarence Jackson says Lloyd lives at 15 Central Park West. He's got a nice place there for sure. There's also one other gentleman, this big private equity guy, I forget his name, I'm blanking on it. He has a good unit there too. Really, really nice.
Had some idea of fundraisers. They were just a little nervous at October 7th. But I know Adam.
Hugo says hopefully the unions hold out for everything they want. Look, I think they should get a better contract, but they also have to be realistic, right? The art of the deal is to obviously negotiate what you want. You'll never get what you deserve. You'll always get what you can negotiate. But there's a certain point where it comes to be too ridiculous, right? And the way you go about negotiating, there has to be some level of professionalism. If you negotiate with a gun to someone's head, Probably not the best way to go about it, in my view. 20% pay raise, 30%, who knows? Troy Atman says, what if Lloyd Blankenfein goes home and logs into our chat? Maybe he does, you never know. Maybe he does. That's funny, I ran into him once before, but this was at a coffee shop. I think I offered him like, hey, Lloyd, I'll buy you the coffee. But he's like, no. Hey, what's up, Mike G? Says, what's up, Tom? Nice night for a walk in New York City. Indeed it is. It's kind of chilly too. Ah, you're right, Dan Loeb. Clarence, you're right. Dan Loeb lives at 15 Central Park West. I think I follow him on Twitter. Anyway, yeah, so who have we run into on the broadcast so far? We ran into Ackman. I didn't say hello to Bill Ackman when I ran into him on the stream. He was with his kids. If you're with your kids, I'm not going to bother you. I mean, that's too invasive. But a few weeks later, after we ran into Bill Ackman on the stream, I ran into him right outside of Trump Tower. So right on the corner of 57th and 5th, which is really the Tiffany building, but you know, everyone knows Trump Tower's right there. Ran into him. Really nice guy. Very outspoken activist investor. Oh, that's right, Doc 7. Tomorrow is Rosh Hashanah. For all those Jewish viewers and listeners there, enjoy your holiday. So that probably means everything's going to be pretty quiet. A lot of people are going to have off for the Jewish holiday. I believe there's 2 in October, right? Rosh Hashanah, and there is one more. Isn't there one more? I think there's one more. Oh, that's right, Troy Atman. We also ran into Scott Wapner. I think he was out in West Village, right? No, this was right off of MacDougal Street. Right, Troy? I think, yeah, he was making a left. I'm blanking on the name of that comedy. It wasn't the Comedy Cellar. How could I forget the name? Anyway, but yeah, you're right. Oh wow, NBA Lies, Tom, a few years ago I crossed paths with Jeffrey Gunlock. Very cool. Ah, that's right, Yom Kippur. See, I mean, you never know who you're going to run into in New York City. This is 432 Park in the distance. But, you know, oftentimes people will come on the broadcast and they'll make comments like, New York City, it's too expensive. You know, it's overrated, I would never move here. But, you know, if you're really early on in your career, like really young guy or young girl graduating college, the opportunity cost, I believe, still to not be in a city like New York, you know, it's really unbelievable, right? I mean, here, especially if you want to be in a financial field or a tech field or a medical field, all the big players are here, right? Only in New York City can you walk down the street and run into the CEO of Goldman Sachs, right? If I was an investment banker, which I'm not, that's a huge opportunity running a Lloyd Blanket Fund. If you're not doing a live stream in front of 1,000 people, you could chat them up, talk to them about business, and maybe you get a job from the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, right? Or you run into Bill Ackman. Or if you're in the medical field, think about all the amazing doctors at the top of their fields that live and work right on this tiny island. So you never know who you're going to cross paths with in New York. And it only takes one interaction, one first impression to change your life, right? And that is the truth. It's happened for me. That's pretty much how I got most of my jobs and career opportunities, was from, a friend of a coworker that I met in the city. So don't let the media kind of scare you out of coming to New York, or any major city for that matter. There's always going to be problems. I'm not saying there's no problems here. New York City has no shortage of issues. I'll be the first one to say that, but it also has no shortage of opportunities too. Just something to think about. This is that old Carnegie Deli. It's crazy to see it all blown out here. Oh, is that right? Troy Atman says, I hear Sergey Brin rides the New York City subway. That's insane, the founder of Google. I wouldn't doubt it. Brandon says, do you see the housing market improving in the near future for Manhattan? Does office conversion actually make a significant dent in improving the housing shortage? I'd say yeah. And to give the city credit, I know I can sometimes come off as I'm very critical in New York, but there are the appropriate steps for zoning provisions being taken right now. So if you want to talk about condo conversion from office to apartments, office to condos, the best example of that is in Lower Manhattan, because they have the appropriate zoning to make it happen. That's why, if anyone is familiar with Lower Manhattan, think about Wall Street, Water Street, things of that nature. Most of those buildings are now residential. They're either luxury rentals or they're condos and whatnot, but they used to be office buildings. And it's very, very clear if you take a walk down there that they used to be office buildings, right? But a lot of developers have been converting those old and unused offices into apartments. The problem is it's very difficult to do that in Midtown for a number of reasons. Zoning is a big issue, but sometimes it's also more expensive to do a conversion project. But the answer is absolutely that helps, right? We just talked about Pfizer. So Pfizer's old headquarters used to be right there on 40 apartments now, over 1,000 apartments. The old Pfizer headquarters, because Pfizer's now at the Hudson Yards. But more broad-based in the real estate market, Manhattan is very niche specific. I was actually talking to one of the top brokers at Element today. I was staying late at the office. I'm pretty much at the office late every night, but and she was telling me that none of her listings are selling. And I'm talking about the higher end luxury listings, right? And she says, none of my listings are selling and none of my sellers really want to sell. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she's like, every time I have a conversation with a seller to reduce the price, and you're talking, in the price range we're talking about, I would say is 8 million plus, right? $8 million on the low end of one of her listings, $27 million on the high end of one of her listings. And she says, these clients are just willing to eat the payments, right? And when I mean payments, I mean the monthly maintenance and the taxes, because they don't want to lose money on it. They're like, look, I don't need to lose money on this. They're like, I'm a billionaire, literally. I don't need to fire sale this asset. So if it doesn't sell at the price I want, not a big deal. I'll just keep it in the portfolio. Maybe I'll spend 2 weeks a year here. It's not a big deal. So in other words, we don't have a motivated seller. We don't have a catalyst. And there's an interesting piece of data out in for across the country. And I may be getting this wrong, so I mean, we have a live chat here, so you could fact check me in real time. I believe 40% of homeowners now have no mortgage. Is that right, or is it higher? Is it 50% or is it 40? It's something, but it's a very large percentage, right? So all of these people who are out here calling for a 2008 style crash, you don't have any of the catalysts in place to make a massive sell-off like that happen. Because you have a record number of Americans who have 100% equity in their property. So there's no loan to default on, right? If you think about what caused the 2008 financial crisis, it was a massive wave of defaults on subprime loans. So again, not to sound like I'm repeating myself, but it's kind of hard to default on paper you don't carry, right? So there needs to be a motivation for sellers to sell. So what we have now is a very locked market, an extremely, extremely locked market where transactions are just not being done. Prices are coming down across the country, but they're not coming down in the waterfall that many people expect, particularly not in Manhattan, right? Because most people, right, in Manhattan, if you own something here, you really don't need to sell it at a crazy loss. You could just hold on to it until the market recovers. In some sub-markets, right, maybe in, the East, the South, the Southwest, maybe even in the Midwest, there's probably a little bit more motivation for people to sell. Maybe they lose a job, maybe they get married and a spouse got a job in another state, so they are forced to sell, so maybe they take a little bit of a haircut. But over the last, I would say, decade, the Federal Reserve really, really overcooked the market and left interest rates too low for too long, which allowed everybody, including myself, to acquire property with free money. So even if you own a property and you have debt outstanding, you have free money at a fixed price, right? Many of you in the audience probably have 30-year fixed rate mortgage for under 4%. I mean, let's just do that interesting poll. If you want to, obviously, I know it's like a privacy thing, so you don't have to participate if you don't want to, but straight right now. Right, assuming you bought prior to 2001, or assuming you bought prior to 2021, you probably have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage well under 4%, would be my guess. So if you own a $500,000 house, your payment's probably $2,200. I mean, everyone can come up with $2,200. Joe T says, I'd love to move, but I can't give up my 3% mortgage for a 6% mortgage rate. That's, yeah. Reggie 44 says, my house is paid off. There you go, there's another example. Straker says 3.75%. Joe T says 2.8%. Wow, Storm Rider is 2.6. That's insanity. That's insanity. Alan says I'm a renter, so I can't relate on home rates.
Like kick her out.
But my car loan is 1.9%. Jeez. Now, Alan, since we got this 50 basis point rate cut by the auto loan rates, that guy almost got clipped by this car right here. Anybody see that? Jeez, that biker was going way too fast. Now, granted, the car is not really supposed to be encroaching on the crosswalk because we do have the walk sign, but that guy almost got... Yikes. Richards is 3.5%. Anyway, Alan, any material change in auto loan rates with the 50 basis point rate cut? Joe T says 2.876% mortgage. It's free money when you factor in inflation and the tax write-off. That's correct. It is free money. If you have debt outstanding right now that is 3%, the bank is very pissed off right now. I mean, you also have to think about it this way. Who here has seen the headline? Who here in the audience has seen the massive headline that all of these, YouTube accounts and Twitter accounts are pushing that says a record amount of unrealized losses sit on bank balance sheets? Who here has seen a headline like that, or a friend or a family member has sent you like an article saying that the market's going to crash because banks are sitting on the largest amount of unrealized losses they've ever sat on? Anyone seen that? I'm sure you have. I mean, I've seen it. Many of you have actually been sending it to me. Alan says it's been marginally better, but it could also just be a fluke. Needed another 30 to 60 days to be able to really tell, to be honest. But early on, I think it's moving consumers. Donald says in 2003, I bought a 30-year fixed for 5.875%. I refinanced at 3.5% before rates exploded. Wow. Anyway, the reason why now that's a true statement, but it's a little bit misleading because you need to add a little bit of context. And here's the context. God bless you. The context is it's obvious, right? It's extremely obvious that we have the largest amount of unrealized losses sitting on the bank balance sheets because we're just coming off a decade where banks were issuing money at 3%. So if you think about a bond, right? If you think about mortgage-backed security, there's an inverse correlation in rates and the bond prices, right? So is the value, or I'll explain it like this: as interest rates go up, the value of those bonds go down. So when you have decades, or I should say 1 decade, of banks issuing rates or issuing loans at ridiculously low interest rates, when the Fed hikes by 500 basis points over an 18-month period, of course everything's going to be underwater. It's obvious, right? But what is the risk here, right? That's kind of what you have to ask yourself. What is the risk? Well, it's a risk if somebody defaults on that, and it's a risk if you have to sell it. But if you can hold that to maturity, then you're fine. And right now it seems as if people can make the payments. Defaults are still historically low, both on mortgages and on credit card loans. Let's make this left here.
I'll be taking the bus in most places.
That's one of the main reasons why I don't want to do airports.
Joe T says, Tom, you're correct. I just checked, and 38.5% of homes are mortgage free. Wow. So I think I overstated that a little bit. But I think the point still stands, right? I believe I said 40% or 50%, which was a little bit high, but I mean, I think you get the point, right? Which is actually very good news. So almost 40% of Americans own their homes free and clear. And I think that's very good news, and that's very positive for the US economy. And that's very positive for consumers too, because if you look at the data, right, and you take out the top 10% of Americans in terms of net worth, right? Most people's retirement or most people's net worth is made up in the equity in their homes. And it's important that people own their homes, especially if you're relying on that solely to retire in. It's important that you own it free and clear, because if you have a mortgage on it, the bank owns it, right? Hey, nobody's here. What's up? Anyway, if you guys are enjoying the stream tonight, which has been a pretty eventful stream, we just ran into the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, Lloyd Blankenfein. You could leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Also, as a quick reminder, tomorrow is Thursday, so we will be sending out our free investing newsletter called Behind the Street, and we're going to talk about a lot. It's the first newsletter of Q4. You are not going to want to miss it. If you want it sent right to your email box for free tomorrow, just scan the QR code on the screen, punch in your email, and it'll take you to our Substack. Again, we publish our investor letter every other Thursday, right as the market closes. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow. But in the meantime, we are here at Rockefeller Center. I'm going to zoom in here. They're already getting ready for the ice skating rink at Rockefeller Center. Is that too early? What are your thoughts? Is that overkill? I think that's a little bit of overkill. The QR code expired. Oh yeah, it did expire. I think if you type !news, N-E-W-S in the chat, you could click the link to our Substack in the chat. I forgot because the last newsletter we had to put out on Friday. So yeah, if you type !news, N-E-W-S in the chat, the Nightbot should drop the link to our Substack. I'll have to reactivate that. I can't believe that they put the rink up already, or they're in process of putting the rink up. That's true. Alan's like, I'm sure it's a moneymaker, so they want it out. True, and it's also probably much more enjoyable to ice skate when it's 60 degrees than it is to ice skate in the rain and the nastiness. Someone says, what was my major at John Jay, if you don't mind me asking? I did criminal justice and economics. And I took a lot of forensic accounting classes. Originally, I wanted to be in the NYPD and maybe exit to like FBI, CIA or something like that, like tracking down money laundering. And that really came in handy when you're like going through corporate balance sheets. But I didn't even finish. I pretty much finished. I need to take one Spanish course, like a Spanish 102 class, but hey, Hawaii is here. What's going on? Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. Ah, that's true. Professor Dario. Now, speaking of John Jay College of Criminal Justice, Professor Dario may be the newest professor at John Jay. You never know. But yes, we're going to make a trip over to Sutton Place very, very soon. Here we are now at St. Patrick's Cathedral. We have to head uptown now. I gotta go back. Gotta get back to the office. Hey, Yo Charles is here. Blessings from DC. Blessings to you too. This is the Olympic Tower, 641 Fifth Avenue. Oh, that's right. Donald says, Tom, NBC needs the rink up to project the election results on it. Ah, I never thought about that. You know what I think would be an interesting idea? Since we're kind of coming up towards the end of the stream, maybe on election night, we'll do a live stream at Rockefeller Center, and we'll just leave the stream up. We'll just kind of hang out and leave the stream up, looking at the US map at Rockefeller Center. I think that'd be cool to see it live. I just think the chat's gonna get a little bit too spicy. If everyone can behave themselves, maybe we'll do it. But I think it'd be cool. We'll see. I don't know. But do they actually project the map, or is that just virtual overlay? Eli, I know. We should all run our own poll before. I mean, look. It's just people are too turbocharged about it. Because it's really the media's fault, by the way. I know I kind of bash the media. This is St. Thomas Church. But the media has it set out to be that the United States is going to come to an end if either candidate wins. So it's got people so freaked out that they're like, oh my God, if my guy or my girl doesn't win, it's the end. And when people really think it's the end, like there's no alternative, that's when people go for broke, right? And that's kind of dangerous. So maybe I don't even want to be out filming during election night. You never know. Maybe I'll be in my apartment. Anyway, we should do something. We should do something fun for election day. If you have any suggestions or comments, send me an email, send me a DM on X. I spend most of my time on the X platform. You can follow us at Walks Wall Street. Send us a suggestion, but I think we should do something fun. John says my DMs are closed on X. I'll have to look into that. Hey, what's up, Nina? Professor Daddy-O says maybe a helicopter tour. I don't know if we have the budget for that. Maybe if Lloyd Blankenfein puts the bill for us. Anyway, I think we talked about a lot. If you're just joining us, today is the second day of Q4, which meant yesterday we got the Institute for Supply Management PMI numbers, the manufacturing numbers. Tomorrow we're going to get the PMI services numbers. We talked a lot about robotics, AI, autonomous driving. Tesla had their delivery numbers today. They also had, I could actually pull it up to kind of close out the stream. Production numbers for Q3. Total deliveries came in at 462,890. Total production numbers came in at 469,796 for Tesla. This comes about a week before the 10/10 event. So that is going to be a big day for Tesla, October 10th. The Robo taxi event, we'll see what some of the action is in the stock price. But as always, guys, thank you so much for coming out. If you enjoyed the stream, feel free to leave a like on the video. Click the subscribe button if you're new. And if you enjoyed it, come back tomorrow night. We'll start the same thing at 8:45. Check your email for the newsletter. If you type !news, NEWS in the chat. Check out our Substack. We're going to be sending out our next edition of the newsletter tomorrow, right as the market closes. So you're not going to want to miss it. So Jay, appreciate it. Hawaii, thank you so much. Vivian, Francesca, NBA Elias, Sunshine After Rain, D, Esmeralda, appreciate it. Steve, Dale, New England Crypto, Professor Dario, Gary Carpenter, Jay, Larry Adams, all of our moderators, Austin City Limits, Muhammad, Stephen Bate, Everything in Miami, DC322, Donald, Hal T, Jadison, thank you. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 8:45.